Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Rio. I'm your host, Isnaini, and here with me is my co-host, Kelly. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. So today's topic is actually something that is very exciting because we're going to be explaining to everybody our 2 cents of what's going on in this market right now. And we're going to be talking about the current state of the real estate market. And this is kind of like there's a lot of opinions, right, Kelly, on what's going on and where are we trending. Everybody comes to us. First question they usually ask is, what's going on in real estate? And there's so many answers to that. So
Yes,
today will be a good discussion to kind of go in detail. But before we get into it, we're going to get into our myth of the day. And Kelly's going to bring up our first one. We kind of brought you guys a few different ones that are very common in today's market to think. So this is kind of going to branch out a little bit that for you guys.
Yep, the first one is that a lot of people think that they should wait to purchase a home until home prices get lower or interest rates lower. And that's actually false. If you wait, it could cost you more, because the market that we're in right now, we are seeing a little bit of home prices kind of flatten out a little bit, but home prices will always rise, whether it's a quick rise or it's a steady rise, but your home should always increase in value. And a home increasing in value has a lot of things that go into play with it, whether it's the area that the home is in, what you do to your home. You could make your home better, make it bigger, make it nicer. You always make your home. But home values will always increase, no matter how you look at it.
Because inflation is a constant in our society. So there's always going to be a natural increase. So people with that kind of myth, people usually have the understanding that it's like, oh, when is a good time to buy? And that's why we always say the right time to buy is when you are ready to buy and when you need to buy. Because if you're just ready to buy and you're waiting, then you're definitely going to cost you more in the long run, unless you have to wait for a certain specific reason. But if you don't and you're ready now, the best time to buy is now. That's really my response to everybody.
And with interest rates, interest rates right now, they have plateaued. Our hope is that they have been going down very, very slightly. But you can't wait for interest rates to get low in order to buy a house. The time is now. Make sure that you can be pre-approved with the interest rates where they're at right now, because right now is a normal market. Right now, where interest rates are between 6 and 7, that is where a normal market should be. And yes, will we have a refi boom? Someday we will. When that will be, we have no idea.
Exactly. We don't know. It's like waiting on stocks. You can't really wait to buy, your stocks is a little different, but anyway. But you don't know when they're going to go up and down. So waiting is not necessarily the answer. If the numbers work for you as of today, that's when you should make the move. And if for some reason the interest rates are lower, then Kelly can help you with the refinancing and lower your monthly payments at that point. But don't wait for that to happen, because we never know.
Correct. Or if you do a pre-approval today, but because you didn't find a home yet, what if like a couple of months rates go down? Then maybe you could be pre-approved for a little more. We don't know. Yeah, exactly. But now is the time to get your pre-approval. And to get pre-approved at a higher interest rate is better than getting pre-approved at a lower interest rate, because you don't want sticker shock.
You don't want to be expecting or hoping for something and then realize that you don't necessarily can get that anymore because the interest rates went up from when you were pre-approved originally, right? So
correct. That's what I got for the first myth. So I'll have you take on the next myth.
So another myth, and this is more on the seller side, is that because of the way the core market is, the sellers think they can set the price at whatever they want. And that's not true. We still go by the standard of market and what the market is telling us. Now, of course, there has been a trend for the last couple of years now since COVID of an upwards, price of homes. And that's mainly because of how competitive the market has been. But that doesn't mean a seller can just ask whatever they want for their property. It has to be within market standards. It has to be reasonable. When I am talking to a seller in regards of pricing and what price we're going to be putting it in the market, we do a competitive market analysis to see what properties have been selling for, and what they actually have been appraising for. So we have a more realistic price point, and then we can play around with it. Let's say if the seller has a very stronger need of being out of the property quickly, then we're going to probably go at market value or just below market value to kind of drive that sale quicker. But if they are, I'm not in a hurry, I'm okay playing with the market a little, then we can put it in the market a little bit above market value. But it's never going to be more than like 5% or 10% of that market value. It's always usually within that trend, depending on the marketing strategy the seller wants to follow, but always within the market standards. And the market values are very subjective too. Even within appraisers among themselves, there's discussion of value. A property could be seen as 200, another appraiser can come in and think it's 215. So it's very subjective. That's why there's always a 10% giveaway on price. And that's the strategy we kind of use for pricing. But no, it's a myth. You cannot just place your house for sale for whatever price. I mean, technically you can. You're just going to sit. You're going to realize real quick that you are overpriced for the condition and location of your property. So that's for that myth. You want to implement anything into that?
I would say no. I think you kind of hit it right on the mark. You can't really.
You can do whatever you want, right? That's not how it works.
Make up a price for your house. There has to be research on it, and that's why it's always good to have a realtor to work with, because you do the analysis for it. You can't just be like, well, I want to sell my house for $200,000, but it's not worth $200,000. But no, I don't trust
Zillow. Zillow's estimate is very off. Sometimes they hit it right. Sometimes. The majority of the times they're a little bit too far off. And that's why it's a computer, right? They're great. They do their whole system. But there's a lot of information, faulty information online that Zillow pulls up incorrectly. And then they're taking that into consideration, and they don't know condition. Computer cannot judge condition. They will judge just the strict numbers and data, right? So 3-bedroom, 2 full bath, that's the square footage, that's the location. Boom, they get you the estimate. But that doesn't mean that your property is going to be, despite being the same, bedrooms, bathrooms, doesn't mean it's going to be the same value of a property that was just built with the same features, right? Correct. So it's different. And then Zillow doesn't understand that. That's why having a realtor is so important. And, we do evaluations for people all the time. It doesn't cost the sellers anything. It's just good to know what their house value is. And, if you guys have questions about your house value, I'd be happy to assist. And when the time comes and the time is right to sell, I'll be able to help you at that point. But understanding the real value of your home is very important, especially from experienced agents that understand how to properly value your property.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'll go ahead and chime in on the next one too, which is the buyer side myth. That they think, okay, if I'm waiving my home inspection altogether, not doing a home inspection when I'm buying a home, my offer is going to stand out. This one is a tricky one. And I say this because, yes, a lot of people are waiving home inspections, and that is a way to stand out among other offers. But it's also a risk. So no agent would ever recommend that without telling you the risks involved with that decision. But there are ways to go about it to minimize the risk on the buying side, because it can be really detrimental not having an inspection done on the property when you're buying a home, because you don't know what you're getting. What if something really expensive could come along after you moved in and purchased, now you're stuck with that. So one thing that you can do when you're doing the the waiving of the contingency of a home inspection is tell the seller, hey, I will buy the home. It's not going to be contingent on that inspection, but I would like to have a home inspection done still. If you do that way, you will stand to lose your deposit, but at least you have that option to know what's going on with the property, and losing a 1% of the purchase price might be better than, getting into a home with a huge issue. Then now it's going to cost you even more than that deposit. Another way to maybe not even lose the deposit and keep your deposit safe is to say, look, we're going to do an inspection. It's going to be contingent on inspection, but we're going to set a set amount. So we're not going to ask for any repairs that are lower than X amount. So that way you're telling the seller, I'm not going to nitpick on the property unless it's something really big. So you can stipulate that price and you can do that wording on your offer. And that will, give a little bit of a peace of mind on the seller side. If the sellers know that they don't necessarily have any major issues, they might have little things here and there, but nothing major. Then they won't mind that you're doing the inspection, and that still will give you the peace of mind that you're, have that limit capped number for your inspection. You still can do the inspection as well. And if something comes along, you still can back out and not lose that deposit. So there's different things you can do to kind of surpass this. One thing that I started doing for all my buyers since COVID kind of came along and this need, to waive the inspection contingency, became a thing. I started offering them home warranty. And home warranty is outside of your homeowner's insurance. It's in addition to it. While your homeowner's insurance, they have to do a claim. They have to find out what happened. It may or may not be approved, kind of like a car insurance goes. Home warranty is no questions asked. If it's covered, it's covered no matter what happened. So that's usually valid for the first year that a buyer moves into a property. So if you're not working with me and you're not getting that as a gift like I give to my clients, but you're working with another agent, just make sure that you're asking that agent to get you a home warranty. It's a very low cost. We're talking $500 value for the year on average, maybe more, a little more or less depending on the company, but it will give you such a huge savings in case you do need to actually use that, for, let's say, your HVAC unit went bad and now it's going to cost you a couple $1,000s to repair it. Now you're only paying the deductible, and that's usually like $100, and having it repaired because you have your home warranty. So it's definitely a good way of, countering the lack of inspection maybe that when you purchase a home. And even when you do purchase a home, things can break too after you move in. So having a home warranty is actually not a bad idea in the overall scheme of things.
It's also peace of mind too, I think, for some people, especially if you're not having an inspection done.
For sure. Definitely recommend it 100% for anybody buying a house. And you can renew it for a second year too. It doesn't have to be just for the year. But on average, people get it for the first year, just because usually things break when you move in, right? As soon as you move in, that's when
things there.
Yeah, so that's good to have it.
So our last myth that we're going to review is people think that you have to renovate their home before they put it on the market, which really isn't true, depending on the home.
And depending on your goal, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So it all depends on, there's a lot of things that go into play when you're putting your house on the market. And that's why you hire a real estate agent like you to go over that stuff. I think the biggest thing if you're looking to sell your house is to make it marketable, not to renovate it. There's like getting rid of clutter for pictures when you put it on the market, I think is a big thing, but that's not renovation. That's just cleaning up clutter in your house to show, because people want to see what the house looks like with not all of your stuff in there. So it's, just decluttering your house, I think, is the big thing that people need to do versus doing renovations, unless you have visible renovations that need to be done. And, before that, you put the house on market. I think that it's all about making your house marketable, and decluttering is the biggest thing, not necessarily renovations. So,
very true.
I don't know. Do you want to add to that? I feel like renovating your house. It all depends on what you want to get for your house. So
Yeah. So when a seller comes to me and like they're considering, putting their house in the market, they will always ask me like, how much do I need to do in order to sell my house? And that's very subjective. I wouldn't say full renovation is needed. That is definitely a big myth. But some houses, depending on the area and how the houses in the area are. So if your house happens to be in a newer community with brand new construction surrounding you, you might want to consider, paint the walls. If you have a lot of carpet or old carpet, you might want to replace that. So, to an extent, yes, some things may be needed. But if your house happens to be in a community where all the houses are kind of like a little bit dated, maybe you just do a fresh paint and maybe slap new floor. That way your house is the best one in the neighborhood and sells for more. So there's different strategies, and it really depends on how much that client wants to net. And talking to a realtor, the reason I know I'm biased, but it is important to talk to a realtor to find out what needs to happen, because sometimes you may think you want to do this, and it's going to cost you this much money, but they might not get the return when you sell it because that investment is not needed, or it's not something that it's going to bring you value back. So the realtors are really trying to give you the best perspective on value. So, okay, maybe if you do the flooring and painting, it's actually going to make your house stand out, and you will make more than what you're spending back on the sale. Or no, maybe if you do those things, you're actually spending too much and you're not getting that money back. So you might as well sell it as is. So we were going to tell you based on, the surrounding area and what the houses are going for and what the houses look like. That way you know what you need and don't need to do, or what you should or could do in order to get more value. So we do look at all those things when we are analyzing your market before going, for sale. But a full renovation, no, it's not needed unless you have a rehab house, right, completely done, and then you want to actually renovate it and sell. Yes, then we can look at that would be like an after repair value, the ARV that we call it. And we can let you know, okay, after full renovation, this is how much your house would be worth, because it would be more comparable to like a brand new construction. So we give you that value. And if it makes sense, then you do that. But that's a very specific situation.
And I have a question.
Yes.
So do you ever have instances where your seller knows that work needs to be done, but they say, we will give you this much for repairs that need to be done after the house is
Yeah, like I guess it depends on the repairs too. So if they know the water heater is old and needs to be replaced soon, but they don't want to have to do it, or maybe they're asking me, should we do it before we sell or should we not? I would say if there's something like water heater is going to come back on an inspection, and I know that house most likely will have inspections from buyers, then maybe we just go ahead and replace the water heater to minimize any issues that we're going to have during the sale. If a property is going to be on the market, and chances are it's an area that we know it's going to be a lot of first-time home buyers, and that house is in need of like carbon monoxide detectors, handrails, it has peeling paint on the windows, and we want to make sure we can go for those first-time home buyers, then I'm going to tell them, look, this things ideally should be done prior, because then we're going to have to do it anyway, and you're just going to delay having to do it. So just do it now. So there's little things like that not just cosmetic, but like things that needs to happen in the house, that if a client comes to me knowing that is in need of, or that is broken, so it depends on what that is.
Mm-hmm.
If it becomes something that's going to be detrimental for the deal to go through, then yes, I'll let them know and say, look, you probably should do this ahead of time, and just take the cost in, because we're going to recoup it on the sale anyway. So it really depends. It's a very subjective question, because there's so many things that they could have. Oh, do I need to replace my roof? That's a big one. Like, oh, my roof is 25 years old, and it's a 30-year shingle towards the end of its life. Should I replace the roof before I sell? If there's no leaks, I would say no. I would say no, you don't have to. The buyer coming in will know that information, because we're just going to disclose it. There's no current issues, so there's no need to change it. But at least the buyer will know, the agent know that they have to budget for that, and you sell the house that way. So depending on what it is, right? Depending on the situation.
Okay.
Yeah. Good
Well,
question though.
I think that covers
Covers the
this
myths.
episode.
Yeah. The ones that we see the most, especially in today's market. Yes. I think that's kind of the most common ones. Now I'll go through it pretty quickly, or try to do it pretty quickly with a market update, just so you guys know the numbers for our counties here in the area. So we'll start with Dauphin County. In May, which I don't have June's numbers yet because we're not done with June, but in May, the average sale price was $271,914, and that was actually an increase from April at 244. We had a total of 345 houses listed in May, and from those, 296 actually went pending. So, well, or more than half of the properties and went pending. Oh, sorry, 345 and 313 went pending in comparison to last year, where we had 296, which is much less, and then 276 went pending. Months inventory, we have about a month, 1.1. So we have just about 1 month's worth of inventory in the market. So pretty competitive still. What comes active basically goes pending for the most part. The days on market is right now 22, which is a decrease from last month, from April, which was 35. And that is because of the summer market. We expect that usually with buyers coming into summer to purchase. So now going into Cumberland, average sale price for Cumberland County is actually $338,239 for May, which is an increase in comparison to April at $332. We had 323 new listings in the market in May. Huge increase from April at 284. And then from those 323, 276 went pending in the same month. So showing us that actually Cumberland County has more months of inventory. We have almost 1.5 months of inventory now available. They're starting to sit a little more, and it shows on days on market. We have an average days on market in May of 28 days, which is just about the same as April at 32 days. And I'm curious to see what June's going to look like. I think it's going to be pretty flat from what I'm seeing, but we'll bring it back to you guys next month with when June's numbers come out. Lancaster County, average price is $341, and also an increase from last month previous month at $326. In May, they had 542 new listings, and from which 478 went pending. So it gives us about 1.1 months of inventory as well. Days on market in Lancaster is actually much shorter at 14 days on market, and that is also lower than April at 21 days on market. So again, showing that the summer market is picking up. And then final, we have the York County. York County average sale price for May was $295,600. And in April, we had $273. So again, another increase. It did go up in value. We had 641 properties listed in May. From those, 561 went pending, giving us a 1.2 months of inventory. And the average days on market for York County in May was 20 days, which was also a decrease from April at 25. So all of this shows us that average sale price went up from April to May, and the days on market went down from April to May, which, yes, summer's here. We know summer season has a lot of buyers always, and that's really what this is telling us. Days on market overall has actually been much longer than what we saw last year. I mean, overall last year, we're seeing no more than 5, 6, 7 days. We're in the single digits. We're finally back to the 2 digits. We're not quite in 30s yet, but we are, in the 20s for the most counties, teens for Lancaster County. So it's still fairly quick, but we're looking more at 3 weeks, on market when a property gets listed. And that's average, because as we're going to be talking about for, today's real estate market, we're very spotty. It's very regional right now. It's kind of hard to say, yes, we have a very, very strong seller's market everywhere, because it's not true. It's very spotty and it's very region centric. So I guess we can get right into it. The current state of real estate market and our 2 cents about that. So I did mention about summer home buying season being here, and it really is, you can see the numbers kind of changing, but it's not what we usually see on a year-over-year basis. It's actually a pretty, what we call it, a winter chill summer, because we're not seeing the frenzy, the craziness that we usually normally see on summer times, and that usually starts around like March. It's not even summer, spring. It goes from March to August, and it's like a craziness, and we're not really seeing that too much. Like, you guys noticed that April numbers were actually sitting longer, not necessarily too crazy. May picked up a little bit. I'm curious to see what June is going to look like. I think June is going to be maybe a little bit of increase, but not dramatic. At least that's what I'm seeing in my work. And that's kind of like what we're seeing. The new home sales, I have some numbers here for you guys. So new home sales saw a bump in April, and recording about 4.1 increase from the previous month of March. And we are now seeing that 4.1 became a 5.5 to the May's month. So not necessarily too huge of an increase. And then in regards of the interest rates, and Kelly can give us even more insight on this one, it looks like they remain, for this year, they remain pretty elevated. I think we're hitting year-to-date high of around 6.79 for the national average for the week of June, the beginning of June. But you're telling me about what's the average now, Kelly, that we're seeing? Like, what range are we looking at?
The range is anywhere between 6 to 6.625, give or take. Everybody, it's, when somebody asks me to give them an interest rate, you just can't. It's not a thing. You always have to give a range because everybody's situation is different.
Yeah.
There's a different interest rate on somebody who has a credit score of 800 versus somebody who has a credit score of 700.
Oh, yeah.
There's a difference in interest rate based on the loan amount. There's going to be a different interest rate on $250,000 loan amount versus $150,000 loan amount. So
yeah.
Everybody's story is different, so everybody's interest rate is different. But a good range is anywhere between 6 to 6.625 right now.
Gotcha.
And that's give or take. There are some fees that go into that with the interest rates, but I'm not going to go into what that cost is because, again,
yeah,
everybody's
going to be different, right? It's like giving someone a prescription. It's not going to be the same for everyone because their financial profile is different in many different ways. Everybody has different job situations and that all goes into giving them the interest rates. Not just about the credit score like a lot of people think, right? There's a lot that goes into it. So it's kind of hard to say, oh yeah, your interest rate as of today will be X, and that's not something we can do. But we can tell you that that's the range right now, 6.6 to 6.625, right? You said?
Yeah.
So that's like right now, and that again, that can change tomorrow, that can change next week and the next month. It is going to continue to change because it fluctuates as the market fluctuates. You were saying something about maybe hopeful good news on the end of this year.
So in all of the market updates we've received, we've been told that the interest rates were supposed to start trending downward. So we did see a little bit of that. So I used to quote people, your interest rate could be anywhere between 6 to 7%, give or take. Now it's 6 to 6.625. So that is a lower range. So they keep saying that, yes, we are going to see them. They're never going to be down as low as 2 and 3% again. I don't think we'll see that again in our lifetimes.
Oh,
no. I don't know. But
I hope nothing dramatic happens like in COVID for us to even see that. So I don't think either that's going to be the case.
Correct. When they went down, the market needed to make money. So the interest rates went down. Well, housing went crazy. So again, unless something drastic happens, I don't know that we will see that. What we will see is if rates do go down, they'll probably go down to between 5 and 6.
Yeah, which is where they used to be in 2019, 18, from what I remember. That's what it used to be, the rates. I mean, some people probably maybe even got the fours, high fours, but that was actually the norm rate from before COVID.
Mhm. And that's still a great interest rate.
It is,
So,
yeah.
So we're hoping that we see them to start to trend downward. But again, market people, they say, are like weather people. They will tell us what they think, and we will always listen to them.
Yes, exactly. That's all we can do, right? And until
Yeah.
they're wrong, and then we're like, they were wrong.
Our hope is that we do see the interest rates start to trend down. We're seeing it a little bit, but not to the extent where we're going to have some kind of refi boom.
Yeah.
Not anytime soon. So.
And I have a lot of people asking me about the home values too. They're like, is the home values going to go down? And as of now, they have been actually remaining relatively flat. I actually got some numbers for us from May. They only rose 0.2%. So sales prices are not increasing dramatically, which is actually good news for home shoppers, but they're also not going down. And they're not foreseeing that going down, according to the National Association of Realtors. They are not foreseeing any drops in price. The sales price actually have been edging like lower year over year when you compare month to month. For the last 4 months, they have been lower than last year's. So, but on the lower end, and we're not seeing like any increases or decreases. You're just seeing that flattening out for this whole year, basically so far, which again is really good news. But they're not expecting the decline to happen. Now, when I say that, a lot of people say like, "Oh, I'm seeing some house adjustments, prices going down." But what some people need to understand is that when a property goes for sale, it is the agent and the seller agreeing on the sale price, right? Which means they could be wrong as far as where they are at on sale price, and they could be like hopeful on the market, selling for higher or whatever. We don't know. And we talked about strategy, right? When we're talking about the myth of the selling and putting whatever price they want. A seller sometimes can step their foot down and say, I want to sell at this price. And it's going to sit for a reason. But that's why you end up seeing some price adjustments. It's not because the prices are going down. It's just because maybe that seller and realtor put the house too high in the market for what it should be. So no, it doesn't mean the houses are dropping. It just means that they were too hopeful on their sale price.
Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing more. Like if people are now, especially agents, are trying to educate their sellers to be more realistic, because houses are not necessarily always selling higher than what they're listed for, and they're actually selling for market value. And if they're not posted or listed for sale correctly at the right market value, they will end up sitting, and then you see adjustments. One thing that we saw as a whole country is that the prices went up in the Northeast and Midwest, but they actually went down on the South and West of the country. So it is very region specific. Even within the state of Pennsylvania, I can tell you that our pocket markets where it's still super competitive and the prices are still rising, people are overbidding. But then there's also areas in the Central PA area that you are able to negotiate value, you're able to negotiate terms. And I would go even beyond and saying that it also depends on the price range. There are properties price ranges that are more competitive than other properties price ranges. If you're looking at like the 200s, a lot of competition, a lot of first-time home buyers are still looking to buy because they want to get out of the rentals, which are going cuckoos right now. They're so crazy. But then when you get to the 400s, 500s price values, there's not as much competition because usually those are the second homeowners, mover uppers. So there's not as many buyers in the market because again, they might not be wanting to sell because they have great interest rates. So different competition in different price ranges, but also region is specific as far as how competitive they can be. What do you think? Would you have something to add to that too?
Not really. I think I think that with people getting more, that there are many instances where people are getting more for their house than what it's actually worth. I think that has a lot to do with why some people think that they can just list their house at
whatever they
price
want. Yeah.
they want, and then sometimes, like you said, they list it too high, and then you'll gradually see it come down. But I think that's where the market is a little skewed with home values, because we have so many cash offers of people going in 50, 75 to $100,000 over what the house is actually worth.
Exactly.
So that kind of, in some cases, maybe the house is worth that much more, but I think in other cases it's not.
Yeah.
And it really skews things.
And you brought an interesting topic there too, for the cash buyers skewing the value. And that happens because, let's say a house in the same street sold a cash for, I don't know, 380. And that was higher than it was listed for. But then a seller now talking to me wants to sell in that same street. And they're like, well, that house sold for 380, but they don't know that house sold for cash. And I do, right? Because I'm looking in their records and I can see, look, yes, they sold it for 380, but they got a cash buyer, which means there was no appraisal done. There's no banking involved. And every time you get a buyer for your property and they're using a bank to finance, which a majority of people are, that's the biggest percentage, that bank is going to do an appraisal. And that buyer can only buy for what the house appraises for, unless they're specifically willing to cover the appraisal gap that could exist there. Which means when an appraiser is coming to a property to evaluate the value, they are going to be looking on how that property was purchased, because if they see that a property was purchased in cash, they are not going to take that as heavy as a consideration as a property that was financed, sold with a buyer financing. They will take into consideration the willingness of that buyer to pay that amount, because that is actually part of the appraisal process, is what the people are willing to pay for a property is also taken into consideration to an extent, right? Because there's only one cash buyer, but everybody else is financing. Everybody else financing came back at 350, and that one cash buyer is 380. Guess what? It's not going to be 380, and it's not going to be more than 350, right? So that's considerations that the appraiser takes into account that maybe Zillow won't know, because Zillow will look at 380 and tell you, oh, your house value is 380 now because the house sold for 380. And that's, again, the estimates are incorrect for many different reasons. And that's a good point that you brought in, is the cash does skew the market. And it is taken into account when an appraiser is coming to the property as well. So just keep that in mind. Oh, and we mentioned about the interest rates, right? So I feel like it would be important for you maybe to even give us some insights on the buying power and how the interest rates and house values impact the buyer's housing power, buying power. Because the higher the interest rate, right, the lower they can afford. And now with the potential of these interest rates lowering even by like 0.5%, it can be that a huge thing for any buyer out there. They could potentially buy for $50,000 more.
It definitely could. I don't know what the numbers are offhand, because they're different for each loan amount versus, interest rate. But, everybody just thinks that the interest rates are so high. They're so high, but they're really not. They think they're so high because it was such a sticker shock, because they went up. They more than doubled in less than a year.
Yeah.
So that sticker shock for people was it really, and there are people that you can't, it doesn't matter what you tell them, they think interest rates are astronomically high. Little do they know that many, many years ago, they were 16 to 18%.
Oh my gosh, yes. And that was just even early 2000s, we were looking at the teens, low teens for interest rates.
It was.
That's not that long ago.
No, I got into the business in 2003. So, but 2002 was when they really started to dip down.
Yeah.
And I kind of got into it after they started to dip, but I got into it at a good time because they were still low. Gotcha. They were at that. But yes, when it comes to your interest rate, it it does make sense to get a pre-approval now, because if the rates do dip down, which, we hope they do, we can only hope, you could be pre-approved for more at a lower interest rate. It definitely makes a difference.
Yeah, and there's a myth that I know that I run into with buyers. They think, oh, I'm getting a pre-approval, so I am going to be stuck with that rate. No. So your rate does not get locked until you are officially under contract and you start your mortgage application for that specific property you got your offer accepted. So a pre-approval is just an estimation. It's based on your numbers, right, Kelly? You can even give me more insight. I'll let you talk about this one.
Yep. So your pre-approval is, it's a pre-approval. We do, I do get all your documentation, all your income stuff. I get your assets to see what money you have in the bank to put towards a transaction. Yeah. So that is an official pre-approval. So we use our automated underwriting systems just like our underwriters use, and we have an income calculator that we use that the underwriters use. So it is official that this is what you can give it to your realtor to go look at homes. But an official approval, which we can do that as well, we have the underwriter actually take a look at it and they analyze it. It usually gets analyzed a little deeper than what we do, but as far as the pre-approval is concerned, it's pretty accurate. And it's, if you want to know what you get pre-approved at, it does make sense to reach out to me or a lender of your choice to see where you're at with purchasing a home. So.
Yeah. Just know that your interest rate is not locked at your approval.
Correct.
So we say, get your pre-approval now, and that's why. It's because there's no real lock on anything. You don't have to buy with a certain amount of time. You're not locking any interest rate, but it will give you a good understanding of how much you can approve, what kind of financing you're getting. So we can start the search on the right foot. But understand that your rate only gets locked in once you have the contract signed with the seller. And then Kelly will look at, the best day to lock your rate, because, depending on the first week, how the rates are kind of looking in the market, she might lock you in a specific day because it's lower for that week. And then you're set for that rate until we close, unless there's a need for an extension, and then you extend the rate, the lock rate and all that. But that rate only gets locked in after. And a lot of my buyers think, oh, my lender told me I was going to get 6.25 when I got approved. So why am I getting a 6.4, whatever? And that's because it fluctuates. You're not locked in on that rate. That rate is just the day that they ran the pre-approval, how much it was running for your profile. So you have an idea, but it doesn't get locked until you get in the contract. And that's a huge one, and I'm going to make sure people understand that a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, that could have been one of our myths.
I know, right? Now there it goes. There it is. It's out there. So we kind of gave you guys a pretty good understanding of what the market and what it is. We know that there's a shortage in inventory right now, and that really comes down to like sellers that may have refinanced their property over COVID, got a very low interest rate, and are deciding to stay put until they see better rates, because they might not need to sell, but they might not need to move to somewhere else. So the people that we're seeing selling are really only the people that need to sell for a specific reason or another. And because of that, we're having a shortage of inventory. When usually, some people kind of just sell because they want an upgrade, but, the interest rates are the same as they already pay. So it was easier when interest rates were kind of like leveled out. But now that we have some people at the 2s and 3s, we're finding that sellers don't want to let go of those 2s and 3s, and maybe they're okay staying in their house for another couple of years, to build more equity before they decide to sell. And that's the shortage that we're seeing. I mean, that's one of the biggest, I should say, reasons why we're seeing shortage. There's other reasons as well. The market has been great, and there's more buyers in the market because we're seeing historic lows on unemployment levels as well. Like everybody, thank goodness, has a job and are doing well, and they can afford to go and pursue the home buying, dream. But there's different factors, but the biggest one I would say is the lack of inventory that we have been seeing within the last couple of years, for sure.
I'm sure.
In a perspective of what the experts are saying about the housing market recovery, right? They're expecting to be very sluggish. And by that, what they mean is that we don't know exactly. It's not going to be something like, oh, we're going to recover in a few months and that's the plan of action. There's no such a thing, right? They don't know exactly how it's going to happen. They're seeing that it's recovering already. It's kind of like stabilizing, but it's at its own terms because we're coming from something that was unheard of, right? The COVID situation, it's brought in a whole new type of real estate market, and they don't know necessarily what to call this because it's so unique in its own way. And the recovery has been much slower and with ups and downs in different areas, in different price ranges. So they're calling it this sluggish recovery of the housing market. It is happening. It is currently happening, but we just don't know when it's going to be finalized. But it's going the right direction. I would say to finish this, because we kind of went over quite a bit with you guys today, is to if you're wondering when is the right time to buy or to sell, I always know is the right time is the right time for you. If you need to buy a home, if you need a new home for any reason, or you just want a new home, that's the right time. If the numbers are making sense to you, if you're able to qualify for the amount that you want to go for, that's the right time. If you need to sell because you want to move to another state, or you need to get closer to work, or you want to get closer to family, whatever it is, that's the right time to sell. As soon as the numbers make sense for you is always the right time. And talking to Kelly and understanding where you are financially also helps. Even if you don't know if right now is the right time, just understanding what the numbers look like for you can help you either get there, or maybe you're already there and don't even know it. But at least knowing that knowledge is power, you will be able to make the decision that is right for you right now.
Yep.
Yeah, just talk to Kelly. That's the answer of the day.
I don't have anything to add to that.
Just like, hey, I'll take that. I'll take the goat and walk away. So yeah, that's what we have for today. That's our 2 cents on the real estate market as of now. We would definitely try to bring another update once we see more things developing here in our channel. So just stay tuned to that, and more information to come on the next episode.
Yep.
See you guys. Have a good day.
Bye. See ya.
Bye.